Hi, everybody. We're here. It's 2:05, a little late, but better late than never. I am here with Michelle Cescatti, right?
Cescattin,
Um,
that's okay.
um, and she is going to talk to us a little bit today about R.I.E, Resources for Infant Educators, developed by Magda Gerber. And we get a lot of questions about why or how is R.I.E different than P.E.T? How are they the same? How are they different? And some people can spot those differences and some are curious about them. So we're gonna do some Mythbusters today and talk about that and tell you how they complement each other as well. So I'm going to bring Michelle in and she's gonna introduce herself. By the way, I am Kelly from Respectful Parent at respectfulparent.com. I teach classes. If you're seeing this, you're already in my group. I teach P.E.T classes, parent effectiveness training. So Michelle also teaches parent effectiveness training, but she also is a certified R.I.E associate. So she has a good view on both. And here she is. Hi, Michelle. Welcome. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, everyone. So my name is Michelle Cescatti. I live in Los Angeles. I'm a certified R.I.E associate and a P.E.T instructor. You can find me at perceptiveparenting.com, no, .org, excuse me, perceptiveparenting.org. That domain costs a lot more, by the way, .com. And you can also find me on Facebook and Instagram. So I teach P.E.T classes, and I have taught R.I.E classes, and I'm going to be teaching 2 R.I.E classes starting in the fall.
Okay. So do you want to tell us a little bit about what R.I.E is? I think most of the people here know what P.E.T is, and a lot of them come from R.I.E. So what's the difference? Tell us what that's about.
Well, so I'll just give you a little bit of background on R.I.E, maybe tell you what R.I.E is, and then maybe later talk about the similarities and differences. Well, first, would you like me to talk about how I found R.I.E and then P.E.T?
Yes. Tell us your journey. Let us know who you are.
Okay, so I'm the mom of a 7-year-old and a 7-year-old daughter. And when she was about 20 months old, we found R.I.E. And it really resonated with me immediately. I had done the Mommy and Me classes, swim classes with her, all sorts of things. And just by chance, I found R.I.E. And in our first class, when she was 20 months old, I saw her for the first time. I saw my child. And it gives me chills to this day to talk about that. So I knew it was for me. I knew it resonated with me, and I didn't quite understand why at that point. So I just started to read and delve deeper, and it resonated with me so much. It became a part of our lives that I decided to become an associate. And then when my daughter turned around 3.5.
Well, when you say, for people that might not know what that means, when you say you saw her for the first time, obviously you don't mean that you've never seen her before. What did
I hope not. Yeah. So I feel that prior to her being 20 months and that first R.I.E class, I feel like when I was interacting with her, when I was with her, I always had an agenda. So whether that agenda was to change her diaper, get her fed, play with her, it was always about me and what I saw the needs as. So in that first class, I walked in, and our R.I.E teacher, I said to her, or I asked her, what do I do? Because in most Parent and Me classes, you're manipulating the child, you're doing something to the child, or you're telling the child, this is what we need to do now. We need to sing this song. But instead, she said to me, just sit there and observe her. So I was like, okay, well, this sounds really weird. I'm not sure this is for me, but I'm going to do it. I sat there, I observed her, and after 20 minutes, I had tears in my eyes because I realized that for 20 months, I had been doing things to her, if that makes sense, and I have been managing her life and not really letting her unfold as she was meant to unfold. So I hope, does that make it clear? About what
That is,
seeing.
yes, that's a really powerful story. Thank you for sharing. And I think that really gets into the whole child aspect that both PET and R.I.E. Advocate for, that your child is a separate person and capable of a lot more than you might think. So
Totally.
so do you want to tell us, so you learned that in there. So tell us something about the foundational aspects of R.I.E.
Okay. Well, I do want to tell you that I found PET because of R.I.E, and I can go into that later. But yeah, so that's a whole other story. So the foundational aspects of R.I.E. So the basis of R.I.E is respect for the child. And what that means is it's not just a feeling of respect, it's an action and how we interact with children. Basically, R.I.E advocates for treating children not as you wish to be treated, but as they wish to be treated. And how do you know that? Well, you have to observe your child. So basically, we advocate for treating infants, even newborns, as humans, not objects. It's about understanding your baby through observation and responding to their needs. It's about being curious and wondering about them so that they're able to flourish and grow into the person they're meant to be.
Not just emotionally, but you want to observe their developmental milestones too, right? So how does that look?
So, you know, there's a lot of talk, and even I sort of bought into it. Luckily, we have a pediatrician who knows about R.I.E. My daughter didn't walk, for example, till she was 18 months old, and we hadn't yet found R.I.E. But I was wondering when it was going to happen because everybody kept asking me, well, she's not walking. So in a typical R.I.E class, if we have a parent who is concerned and asking about, well, when do you think she's going to walk? And when do you think she's going to sit up? And when is she going to do this and that and the other? Magda used to say readiness is when they do it.
Right.
So, and we're talking about physical challenges notwithstanding. We're talking about
outside of special needs.
Exactly. So, right. So it's about observing when your child is ready and honoring that. It's about not manipulating their bodies into positions that they can't get into or out of themselves.
Right. So on letting them find it on their own. And so a lot of that is once your child does that on their own without you helping them a lot. And it's not meaning like, I'm not going to help you at all, but it's supported help, right? And once you see them do it, they're so much more pleased with themselves and their confidence grows, right?
Yes, for sure. And that, considering the word help, I would say we intervene or we assist as little as possible. So if your child has a safe space, and that's one of the R.I.E principles, is that we provide a safe and challenging and predictable space for your children. And within that space, that physical space, you know that your child is safe. And so if they begin to stand up on their own, it's not as if they're going to knock over a glass figurine on the table or bang their head into a glass table because they're in their safe space.
And so a safe space is different depending on the age of the child. And I think this is a good place to talk about Ryan's at age 2, right?
Yes, I do also, wanted to make that clear. It's not that you can't apply the R.I.E principles to an older child. I just feel that there are limitations after 2, especially regarding communication.
Right. Okay, so go ahead and talk a little bit more about the principles. So you're respecting them.
Okay, so the foundation of R.I.E is respect, right? And that's not just a feeling, but an action. And in applying the R.I.E principles, the 7 principles, you can demonstrate that respect for them. Okay, so there's no specific order to the principles, but I already mentioned the safe, challenging, and predictable space. Trust is a biggie. So trust in your infant's and baby's competence to be an initiator in their own play and their own movement and development.
So that means like don't assume they can't.
Right. Don't assume they can't, and don't push them into anything that they haven't initiated on their own.
Okay.
The next one I wanted to talk about was inviting your child into the caregiving experiences that you share. So instead of them being a passive recipient to care, they are an active participant in their own caregiving activities. And then time for uninterrupted play. So, letting them be and trusting that what they're doing is important enough to not be interrupted. Consistency, clear limits, and setting those expectations so that they know what's coming and they know what you expect. And then freedom to play and interact with other infants and babies.
Right. And then, so we just got a note from Lisa, which she's right, is that Magda recommended that all children be allowed to develop in their own time and their own way. When a child has special needs, it's even more important. That's right. It's not exactly what I meant, but assuming that they don't need intervention.
Right.
If there's something, right, you're wanting to support them, but assuming that there's something else going on outside of the whole child. I know what you meant. Okay, so what about P.E.T? So P.E.T is different from R.I.E in the fact that it's a communication model. It doesn't have anything to do with development. So it's based on, and it's got a very, it's got a window, what it's called, it's got a structure, a format, a visual aid, if you'll call it, and it's called the behavior window. So it talks about problem ownership. So it talks about what happens when the child owns a problem. So you're talking about problem ownership, and that doesn't mean, hey, that's your problem, I'm going to leave you hanging. What that tells you is you stop and think, okay, my child is upset. My child's needs have been blocked in some way. So I'm going to respond differently once I can recognize that my child owns a problem. If they're screaming at me, they're upset, I'm going to recognize that they own a problem, and I'm going to listen to them. I'm going to pause and take some space. I'm either going to passively listen or actively listen. If I own a problem, I'm going to use confronting skills. So this is really a communication model, not a developmental model. And it's intended, it can be used for all ages. Respectful communication. It also believes, so I'm going to get into some similarities here. It also believes that the child is a whole child, that you want to observe your child. It believes that it doesn't want to interfere with play either. They give an example in our instructor's book that, a child's building a sandcastle, you don't want to go over and show them how they can make it better, because that makes the child feel like their version of it wasn't good enough. It was good just as it was. It also believes in changing environments to suit the child. It doesn't have specific solutions. So P.E.T wouldn't say this is the solution that you need to do, where I don't think R.I.E necessarily would either. It makes some suggestions, but that's based on age. So R.I.E makes, or P.E.T would say the parent makes those, that's up to the parent, as long as it meets both people's needs. So P.E.T says all behavior meets a need, and behavior from the child or from the parent. So it's taking into consideration the needs of both people, and I think both groups do that.
For sure. R.I.E honors that parents do have their own needs. Yes.
Right. And so with P.E.T, if they have a section for younger children, and that includes them in the process. Well, you're including them in the process of caregiving, but you're talking them through it just like you would with R.I.E, and kind of narrating what you're doing, but also like helping them realize, oh, you're upset about something. Let's see what it is. Are you hungry? Are you thirsty? Oh, look, your diaper needs a change. There, we fix it. So it's helping them close the loop and realizing that, oh, your diaper's clean, that feels better, you seem happy, you seem to feel better. And so it helps them understand how they participate in the process, which I think is similar. Can
I say one thing about that?
Sure.
Right. So in caregiving, or whenever we're about to touch a child, and I'm thinking R.I.E. right now in terms of R.I.E., we tell the child what we're going to do before we do it, and we allow for space. We allow a beat or tarry time, as
Right.
Mog would say. And I believe that if Thomas Gordon were around and we were to ask him that question, because I don't think it's clear in the book, in the P.E.T. book, he does talk about telling the child as you're doing something like, well, I see you don't want to get in the car seat, and we really have to go, so I'm going to put you in the car seat, right? So R.I.E. would say, okay, obviously prepare your child for what's going to come later, and if they're still protesting, I see you don't want to get in and I'm going to be late, so I'm going to put you in, or you need to get in your car seat. I need you to get in your car seat. Would you like to do it yourself if they're old enough, obviously, or would you like me to put you in? So giving them a choice. And I think that Thomas Gordon would probably, I don't know what you think, I would say he would agree that would be
right. So there's sometimes when there are physical limitations to what the iMessage can do that PET uses. So you also would use demonstrative iMessages. So first, if a child didn't want to get in their car seat, you really don't want to get in your car seat, you hate the car seat, you really were into playing your Legos, and you would really let the child understand that you understood what he thought, and then you would send your own message, and we really need to go to grandma's house, so that we're not late, or whatever the tangible effect is. So it helps them understand actions all the time. And a lot of times when they understand actions, the limit doesn't need to be set. Limits become unnecessary sometimes. And that depends. If a child is emotionally dysregulated, then they won't. But limits become less necessary the more information a child has. And so that's a benefit of PET. So for example, if your child is running into the street, you might grab their hand, and that would be a limit, but also we would call it a physical iMessage, and you might hold their hand and say, I get scared when you run into the street. And you hold their hand, maybe pick them up depending on how resistant they are. I know you really wanted to run after that ball. I don't want us to get hit by a car. And then you would hold them there. Now I feel safe. So they know what made you feel unsafe, and they know what made you feel safe. So they're learning more information about you as a person, not the role of a parent.
Right. And not that you're just setting a limit arbitrarily.
Right. And I think R.I.E. would agree with that too. So there was a question. We're going to probably wrap this up in the next 5 minutes. It's 2:20. We promised to be done by 2:30. Some people ask about consistency. So consistency is very important in R.I.E. Do you want to talk about that? So
again, when we're thinking of an infant or a baby 0 to 2 years old, R.I.E. would encourage as many, like the consistency of routines, for example, consistency of the caregivers, consistency of the play spaces, because within that predictable, consistent environment or routines, then the children can relax and feel comfortable and do their most important work, which is growing and playing.
Right.
But if there is no consistency with schedules or routines or caregivers, there's a lot of changes in the environment and caregiving, then the child can feel dysregulated and not comfortable and not relaxed, and might be focusing on, okay, what's coming next? I don't know what's coming next. Can I really relax? Can I really play? Can I really?
Right. And that's where PET, I think would agree with you, but since they don't go into development, they don't spend a lot of time on it. What they, I think, mean is you don't have to always be consistent. They don't have to mean you don't always have to be consistent about what behaviors you like and what behaviors you don't like. I think that the routines would be that routines are consistent, communication is consistent, and where they play might be consistent. That would be up to the parent in PET. That would be up to knowing your child. And PET believe, they don't go into development, but they believe the more you know about child development, the bigger your window of acceptance is. So they believe that this window of acceptance here is, can you see that?
I love it, yes.
Changes. So some people have a small window of acceptance depending on yourself, the environment, or the other person, and it can change based on, if I had just spent 2 hours in traffic, some behaviors are going to bother me a lot more than others, and I can communicate that to my child so they can understand and have empathy for me, whereas they're not going to say, but I'm always allowed to jump, I'm always allowed to run around the dinner table, or I'm always allowed, and you're just not going to let whatever that behavior is maybe you don't want the TV on, maybe you need all quiet, whereas sometimes that doesn't bother you at all. And say, you know what, I've been in traffic for 2 hours, I really need some quiet time to relax, to help me relax so I can play with you later. So that helps them understand that you're adaptable,
yes,
human, authentic human, with needs of your own, and that needs can change just like theirs do. So that helps them learn that you're a person, not just a role of parent.
I do want to say about that felt very freeing for me when I first took my PET class. I was like, yes, I can be human. Not that R.I.E. doesn't encourage parents to be human, but I just think I needed more when she became more communicative and more independent.
Right. So for you, when they got a little bit older, you were looking for some more ways to communicate that resonated with her and with you as they got older.
I felt I needed more specific communication tools. And, right. You know, it at first, you know, using those I messages felt a little unnatural, but now it's how I speak to right. her. And it's not a thing that I do, it's who I am now.
Right. So, I agree with you. And a lot of people will say, well, why don't you just ask a child what you want? Like, stop banging on the table. And you can do that. Why do you have to send an iMessage? Why can't you be direct and just say, this is what I want. This is what I want you to do. And you can do that. And a lot of times they will do that. If you say, hey, can you stop banging on the table? It's too loud for me. It hurts my ears. They're going to understand that it hurts your ears. Now, if you get a no, then they own a problem and you own a problem. So you're going to say, I know you really wanted to bang on the table, and I have a headache. So that allows them, without giving them the solution of what you want them to do, it allows them to think of their own way to stop. So maybe they'll go outside and bang instead of just offering these two choices, like you can do this or you can do that you decide. They can think of their own way to help you, and it helps foster consideration. So I don't know, sometimes I wonder some of the things that he's written, and I don't know if he goes into it in the book as much, but in the instructor's manual, when we're teaching, which is the course is 24 hours over 8 weeks, so it's once a week for 8 weeks, it really talks very similar to what I have seen Magda write. It's almost some of the language. I wonder if they knew each other, but I don't think they did. But it's really a similar school of thought.
For sure. It's if they didn't know each other, it's kind of too bad. Right. I think they would have been fans of each other for sure.
Right. Right. So I think that covers it. I haven't seen anyone else hop on here and ask questions. So hopefully we covered it all. If not, we can do another one in another time. But thank you.
Thank you.
Is there now, again, since we're at the end, where do you teach and what's your website?
Okay, so my website is perceptiveparenting.org.
Okay.
And you can find me also on Facebook and Instagram. And recently I taught in Pasadena, California, and Atwater Village, which is in LA.
Okay.
And coming up, starting in September, I'm going to teach another course in Atwater and possibly one in Pasadena, and those are both PET classes. And then I'm starting a parenting class with children in September.
Okay.
And then possibly a R.I.E. class as well.
Okay, so if there's anyone that wants your information, I'll put your website in the comments. Mine is respectfulparent.com. I teach in San Diego, and you can reach me here. So thank you, Michelle.
Thank you,
And I'll talk
Kelly.
again soon. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.